times as many as Kansas City. Third down efficiency, much better than Kansas City. Interceptions, none. Kansas City had one. Time of possession, they dominated. Even against a great, young, twitchy defense, the top defensive coordinator arguably in the NFL, Steve Spagnuolo was at wit's end. What do you do against this guy? Now, Lamar doesn't throw the ball downfield, in my opinion, well enough. He doesn't throw it downfield like a Josh, a Stafford, an Aaron Rodgers, a Mahomes. First half, he averaged 1.1 air yards per attempt. Got better in the second half, but he doesn't do that like the top 4 or 5 guys in the league. And there's no way he can play like he played last night the rest of the season. He took a beating. 16 carries. He was like a running back. And he's lost weight, so he's thinner. He cannot play that way. But I kind of understand why last night he played that way. Because it's Kansas City. It's his nemesis. It's his arch rival. It's the team he's trying to get over. It's the Tiger for Mickelson. It's the MJ for Barkley. I get it. And so that effort is not a sustainable effort. Your quarterback cannot take that beating. And I don't think he will. I think he'll slide. He'll run out of bounds. He'll have 7 carries, not 16. He was so fired up last night, he talked John Harbaugh, one of the better situational coaches in football, to go for it at midfield. And, the Chiefs carved it up, sniffed it out.
Worst mistake.
So I do think it was a unique night where Lamar just said, I want to do it. But I'll tell you this. He is on a short list of quarterbacks in this league, and it may be 1 or 2 max, that can get the ball at the noisiest NFL stadium against a great defense, the league's best defensive coordinator. There's 1 timeout and 1:50 left, and he gets them to within an inch, the end of a cleat, from potentially tying or winning the game. The dude is one of one. He is so unique and so great. People say, well, he didn't play that great. Mahomes had a terrible pick and almost 2. But Mahomes is a legend. I talked about this the other day. We spend so much time on shows like this, not just mine, others, criticizing great players who can't beat legends. You know what? Who's beating Mahomes? And I thought Lamar last night on that last drive, I compared it last night on my podcast. I said, he's like if you watched the high school football game and there was only one Division I player and it was a quarterback, and he was just running around making people miss. I mean, Lamar makes other great players for Kansas City defensively totally flummoxed. And they're just kind of hoping he tires out. So the only thing I saw between these two teams that I think is trouble, especially for Baltimore, is offensive line play. These are not great offensive lines. These are not the Lions' offensive lines. Baltimore's, I think, will get better. I think Kansas City's is what it is. It's not going to be great at right tackle. But I got to tell you, I'm going to defend Lamar Jackson forever. Minute 50, 1 timeout, Spags, Kansas City, Arrowhead, gets down to the 13-yard line. The kid is just absolutely unreal. Only Mahomes. That's the last hurdle he can't get over. Just Mahomes, and nobody else can either.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I've been thinking the best way to go about this, and I figured that I'm just going to treat this as just like post-game analysis. And I'm going to do the same thing for first things first, because I know since it's Kansas City Chiefs, Ravens, so it'll probably be very similar talking points. But Colin brought up specific points that it's perfect for me because I get to challenge as well. Listen, Lamar Jackson obviously played great, but he also played bad at the same time. And he wants to now say, okay, well, Mahomes was able to throw interception, maybe even 2, and still win. And that's because he's a legend. No, that's because of Andy Reid. And what makes Patrick Mahomes so successful, the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole, is truly the 1-2 punch with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, 99.9% of the time, does everything right. All of the easy give me plays, all of the fundamental elementary things, pee-wee football, he does perfectly. He does not miss that wide receiver. He does not miss that read. He does not make that mistake. It's so small that when he does, when it is an interception, it's easily overcome because now you have the genius play calling and play design of Andy Reid. So now he's not only does he set Patrick Mahomes up for those very, very, very easy plays that Patrick Mahomes is just not going to miss. When the play breaks down and you need Patrick Mahomes to be Patrick Mahomes, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's able to take off. He's able to buy time. He's able to scramble, then throw the ball down the field to Travis Kelce, and it makes it unstoppable. It makes it unstoppable. It's that perfect combination between Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. That game yesterday was a perfect example. If you ever need to know why a coach quarterback combo matters, that's perfect why. Because the play calling, the play design, Andy Reid was scheming guys wide open. It was unstoppable at times. And then when a play did break down, when it wasn't there for him, Patrick Mahomes was able to be none other than the Patrick Mahomes. And so you're able to get away with throwing an interception, almost having two, right? Like that's what ends up happening. And it just becomes very difficult. But I think that game as a whole, it'll be difficult to have strong takeaways from it. Mainly because we don't know how good both these teams are right now. Let's say Kansas City Chiefs are absolutely a juggernaut this year, and their defense is unstoppable. This will make the Lamar Jackson, the Ravens game look better because it was such a close game, and even though the Ravens obviously had a lot of issues, which I'm going to go through, it was against the best team in the NFL, and who can stop them, yada, yada, yada. So it's not that big of a deal. Same thing with the Chiefs. We don't really know how good the Ravens offense is necessarily just yet. And so it's just like, how good is the Chiefs defense? Because they did give up a ton to Lamar, but they obviously still did enough to win. Not to mention Lamar plays in such a unique way that it's hard to gauge what will a Jordan Love, a Josh Allen, I'm trying to think of any other big names, a Joe Burrow, what will a more traditional offense look like against the Chiefs, right? Because obviously Lamar was able to run all day, 395 total yards, and it's like he just plays so uniquely and so specifically that it's hard for me to like draw any conclusions about the Kansas City's defense. I think it's still a great defense. I mean, listen, the big takeaway is still that the Kansas City Chiefs are great, and the Ravens, I think, are really good. They could potentially be great, and again, it's all going to depend on how they fare against other teams. I just think the way how Lamar plays ultimately is, yeah, he can take advantage of these lower level teams because he is unstoppable, especially with the run, which then allows him, because of his ability to run, it allows him to then make up the deficit of his throwing, of him missing guys, similar to Patrick Mahomes being able to throw an interception. But when you're playing these other good teams, that margin of error shrinks, and you can't miss those guys. On the broadcast, they were literally like, Lamar, you've missed now like 3 or 4 guys. You can't do that. You can't really do that against any team, let alone the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's also then my takeaway for the Chiefs is like, listen, they easily could have lost that game, or at the very least, that game would have been tied going into overtime. And I don't think the Ravens played particularly well. They had penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. I mean, it was like they had complete blown coverage on the Worthy touchdown. Like, Worthy played good, but like, let's not act like he had a showing out. People are going to act, and I know Nick Wright's going to act like Worthy was this unbelievable player, and it's like, don't act like that was likely in terms of the tight end, because Worthy just, his big moment outside of the one I forget exactly what it looked like, but it wasn't like a straight handoff. I forget now. I'm blanking on it. But his first touchdown, like, that was impressive. You saw his speed. But outside of that, there was not a lot other going on. It was complete blown coverage for that other big touchdown for him. And then, just Lamar unable to establish himself as a passer. It was just him calling a hike, going way back, and just trying to see like what's there. It was just backyard football. And I just don't think you're going to consistently be able to win. You can absolutely feast on some of the lower teams. Absolutely. Which then make you look unstoppable. And you're still going to have insane moments, insane runs against elite teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. But when you need to make that throw, Lamar Jackson does not do it at a high enough rate. That's just the reality. He looks so exciting. He's so dynamic. You look at the box score. But then look at the Chiefs' game plan. And this is where I also blame coaching, though, for the Ravens. Because the coaching was not there. What was the game plan for the Ravens? And no, the Chiefs don't get all the credit for it. Because what was the game plan? Patrick Mahomes, again, still only threw, I forget how many times it was, but like not a lot. He did not throw a ton. I think it was like 21 for 29. I forget exactly. I apologize. But it was not a lot. Whereas Lamar, they still ask him to do so much more. Imagine that Andy Reid is able to consistently come up with a game plan where he doesn't have to ask Patrick Mahomes to do endless, just to carry the team endlessly. It's remarkable how the best quarterback in the NFL is not asked to carry all of the load game after game after game. Yet inferior quarterbacks are asked to do more. It's pretty remarkable. Like the delay of game in the first half, how you don't burn a timeout, but then in the second half you burn all your timeouts, so you're left with one timeout going into the fourth. That's coaching. That's awful. That's also a lack of confidence of Lamar Jackson. Like, he just needs to call the timeout. Instead, he panics, he starts clapping, and he tries to rush. Just call the timeout. You're the leader. You're the captain. You're the master of that offense. You call the timeout. Feel empowered. And then again, I blame either coaching for not empowering him to feel that he could do that. And going for it on fourth down, that was not smart. That was just bad coaching to do that. It just was. And Travis O'Shea talked about the play. I don't even need to talk about the play because he was upset with just the play call itself. And I'm just saying the decision to go for it was silly. You're putting extra pressure on your offense and putting extra pressure on your defense week 1 on the road. It's just, and it's not a matter of giving Patrick Mahomes that great field position. Giving any good quarterback. You don't want to give Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott. You don't want to give anyone that type of field position at that moment. Let alone Patrick Mahomes on the road. It was just dumb. There's no other way to look at it for me. It was just dumb. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of went through it all. I just I'm looking at my notes. Chiefs play calling. Right, the play calling for them is still a lead. I guess the other thing that I would add is this. To me, the Chiefs still prove that the skeleton of them, the bones of them, are still obviously elite. But the question is do they have the personnel, actually? I'm not so sure they do. I'm not saying that they don't. But the skeleton is still there. Can they have a similar season as last season? Where the play calling, obviously the quarterback play is elite, but are they ready to execute it? Will Worthy catch the ball? Rashee Rice, Pacheco? Will these things happen when it needed to be done? Because there were more dropped passes. I don't know how much they were able to really rely on Kelsey. Again, Worthy had really only one big play. Only one. Which was exciting and dynamic and was scary if you're anyone but a Chiefs fan. But again, his other big touchdown was just blown coverage. So let's be honest about what that was. He did not have a breakout game like the tight end for the Ravens. That was really whoa, I am here. I have arrived. That was what people were expecting some of these other players for the Chiefs to have, and they didn't. It's not to say that they won't, right? It's not to say that they won't. It's just they just didn't do it for me on Thursday. Again, so I guess I still just have some questions. Travis Kelce is still that security blanket that Mahomes relies on. The offensive line definitely didn't look as strong. But again, it's hard to say. It's hard to gauge off of just one game because it's one game, of course. It's the first game of the season, as well as you don't know who they're playing in terms of the Ravens. Maybe the Ravens proved to have an insane defense, right? That people just don't realize how good that defense was because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So for me, this game was always going to be difficult to draw conclusions from. A lot of these first games are going to be difficult for me to draw conclusions just because I think we just don't know what these teams look like, what they're going to end up being. So it's just hard to draw those conclusions. But yeah, I think for the most part, that's my thoughts. I think it's okay to criticize Lamar Jackson when you miss some wide open throws. Both things can be true. He can be awesome and do awesome things, but still also cost his team. And quite frankly, I still blame the coaching over Lamar because I still just do not agree with the game plan. And the game plan is still truly just to have Lamar Jackson call hike, drop back 5-10 steps seemingly, and just to kind of scan the field and be all right, what am I going to do here? Am I just going to book it or am I going to throw? And you know what? There's times where it's you know what? If you are just going to run, then just run. Because there's times that he dances around and it's well, you know what? If you just took off 3 seconds ago, you probably would have gotten another 30 yards. So it's just even that aspect of his game is kind of push and pull. It's either double, triple, quadruple down on it then. I just think it's a difficult way to play. And it's proven not to be good enough to win. and clearly not good enough to beat the Chiefs. And I don't really know where the Ravens go from here. I think the Ravens are still going to blow out some of these other teams and dominate some of these other teams and look ferocious. And Lamar Jackson will build another MVP resume for this season. And it's going to just keep giving people the sense that they are so great, they're unstoppable, except for versus the Chiefs. And that's just not my conclusion. I just don't see how the Ravens can keep running it back this way moving forward. There's some teams, there's some situations where, yes, you just run into the juggernaut of a team, right? Going up against the Bulls, going up against the Lakers, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I do not think that that's a situation here. I really don't. I think if they had a better plan, or if Lamar Jackson was a little bit better, more developed as a quarterback, they could have easily beaten the Chiefs, not only last night, but last year. The Chiefs are beatable. They absolutely are. They left some players wide open. Their defense got exposed. Their offense wasn't this unstoppable, oh my God. They are absolutely beatable. They are difficult to beat, but they are beatable. They are not this mythological team that no one, they are not the Golden State Warriors. They're not. They're not the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. They are beatable. They are a great team. A great team. Patrick Mahomes is Michael Jordan. He is LeBron. Like, he is the great. So there's not to take away from that. And Andy Reid is the Phil Jackson. But to me, it's Phil Jackson with Kobe and not Phil Jackson with Kobe and Shaq. That's just the way how I personally see it. And to me, what the Chiefs have been able to consistently do is just take advantage of the lack of consistency in these other teams. I mean, just look at the first quarter for the Ravens. Flag after flag after flag after, it's indefensible. It's indefensible. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? What did you make of the Ravens versus the Chiefs? What were your takeaways? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.